I'm so hurt that she did this to me. And I would have never done this to her and her baby. I would have never hurt her. I'm only 18. I don't have a mom. I don't have a dad. I don't have any family. It's just me and my baby. That's my only blood relative I have.
In the early hours of June 14, 2022, panic set in as a one-year-old baby was rushed to the hospital under the claim that he had swallowed soap. At 11:50 p.m. the night before, 18-year-old mother Taylor Starks received a troubling text from her babysitter, warning that her little boy had found his way to the bathroom and had eaten soap. At first, Taylor didn't think much of it, not until she would receive something else. Just hours later, at 1:50 a.m., her phone lit up again. This time, it wasn't just words. It was an image. A picture of her son with a swollen face, covered in bruises. The babysitter insisted it was an allergic reaction, but the truth was far darker. Doctors would soon reveal a chilling reality. Kyrie's condition was not the result of soap, but something far more sinister. And yet, the most devastating part of this story was still to come. This is the life and death of one-year-old Kyrie.
Say hi. What? What you talking about?
Kyrie, born to Taylor Starks on July 22, 2020, was described as a bright, smart little boy, even capable of counting to 5 by the age of 1. His mother, Taylor, gave birth to him when she was just 16 years old, and from that moment on, it had been just the two of them. Though young, Taylor embraced motherhood with determination and love, quickly adapting to the challenges of raising a child on her own. Friends and family often said she was wise beyond her years, stepping into a role that many thought would be overwhelming for someone so young. In her community, Taylor was admired for her resilience. She didn't let her age or circumstances stop her from working toward a better life for herself and Kyrie. Passionate about beauty and creativity, she poured her energy into nail art, eventually building a career as a nail technician in nearby Warren, Michigan. Those close to her often saw her balancing long hours at work with the demands of caring for her son, never complaining, but always finding joy in the small moments she shared with Kyrie. For Taylor, motherhood wasn't just a responsibility, it was her greatest joy. She often posted about Kyrie, sharing his milestones proudly, whether it was his first words, his laughter, or his early ability to count to 5. To family and friends, it was clear that Kyrie wasn't just her child, but also her source of strength, motivation, and purpose. The two were inseparable, and their bond was described as unbreakable. What Taylor had no idea was trusting someone to care for her son would lead to a heartbreaking tragedy. Taylor had entrusted a friend, 21-year-old Kimora Lownme Hodges, to babysit one-year-old Kyrie. Kimora was a mother herself, and on the surface, the babysitting arrangement seemed like a perfect match. She had a daughter about Kyrie's age, which gave her the experience to watch over him. The two women bonded over their shared interests, such as their love of nail art, and Kimora also worked as a part-time press-on nail designer, selling her creations on social media. But despite this, things would take a horrifying turn. On June 13th, Kyrie's mother, Taylor, received an unsettling text message from Kimora that evening. She had informed Taylor that Kyrie had eaten soap, which caused a swelling reaction. It was a cause for concern, but it appeared at first to be a harmless accident. However, as Taylor continued reading the messages from Kimora, her unease grew. In one of her texts, Kimora claimed that Kyrie had been acting out, refusing to listen and getting into trouble while she was napping. Taylor reassured her friend that this was typical toddler behavior, blaming it on the terrible twos, a term used to describe a stage around age 2 when toddlers often throw tantrums, say no a lot, and test limits as they learn independence. But that was just the beginning of the nightmare. Around 1:51 a.m. on June 14th, Kimura sent another disturbing message. A picture of Kyrie's face, swollen and bruised, claiming that it was due to an allergic reaction from the soap he had eaten earlier. But Taylor, concerned for her son's well-being, rushed to the apartment. Little did she know the worst was yet to happen. At around 2:05 a.m., she arrived. Once inside, she found her son, baby Kyrie, in a much worse condition than Kimura had told Taylor. Kyrie was convulsing, having multiple seizures, and his condition was quickly getting bad. The scene that awaited Taylor was unimaginable. Her son was in severe distress, and the severity of the situation became clear when medics arrived and rushed the mother and child to Ascension St. John Hospital in Detroit. It wasn't an allergic reaction, as Kimura had initially claimed. The doctors immediately discovered something chilling.
My baby is such an active baby. Like, he's only 1 and he know how to count to 5.
Say hi. This 1-year-old beautiful little boy named Kyrie, now brain dead.
Only been a week and it feels like forever.
Beaten so badly, allegedly, by a trusted babysitter and friend to Kyrie's mom, Taylor Starks.
All I know is that she threw my son into the wall and shook him up pretty bad, but they said that's just a bit of what she did to him.
She got a text message from babysitter Kimura Hodges on June 13th saying that Kyrie had eaten a bar of soap and was having an allergic reaction. So she rushed home from work to her apartment in Roseville.
And once I made it there, my baby was on the ground having seizure after seizure after seizure.
Taylor trusted the babysitter's allergy story, but doctors at Ascension St. John Hospital would soon deliver the worst news.
He had blood force trauma to the head, and he was bleeding out his ears, where he had to have immediate brain surgery.
A week later, Kyrie's condition is not improved. Tests continue showing no brain activity.
I'm only 18. I don't have a mom. I don't have a dad. I don't have any family. It's just me and my baby.
Hodges is charged with first-degree child abuse, held on a high bond of $250,000, no 10%.
Very cooperative, very regretful, remorseful for her actions, but it doesn't, obviously that doesn't take any of it back.
If Kyrie passes, Hodges will face more charges. But for now, Taylor is spending every minute by her baby's side.
I'm hurt. I'm so hurt that she did this to me.
Reporting in Roseville, Jessica Dupnack, Fox 2 News.
Kyrie had suffered blunt force trauma to the head and was bleeding from his ears. He had sustained injuries so severe that he had to undergo an immediate emergency brain surgery to save his life. But by then, it was already too late. The damage had been done, and Kyrie's condition would only worsen over the next several days. Meanwhile, Kimura continued to send text messages to Taylor at the hospital, reassuring her that everything would be okay. She apologized profusely, saying she had been sleepy and didn't think Kyrie would get into the bathroom. As she begged for Taylor to let her know that Kyrie was all right, her texts grew more frantic. She said she couldn't go to sleep until she knew he was okay for sure, and that she couldn't believe she had let this happen. But it wasn't the nap that caused the injuries. It was the brutal actions of the person Taylor had trusted with her son. By the time Taylor was informed that her son was brain dead, the truth was clear. Kyrie's injuries were not an accident. They were the result of a severe beating. But the worst was yet to come. Tragically, on June 22, 2022, after over a week of fighting for his life and exactly 1 month away from his 2nd birthday, baby Kyrie would pass away. His mother's devastation was beyond words. She had lost her only son in the most heart-wrenching way imaginable, all at the hands of a woman she had trusted like family. While Kyrie's mother, Taylor Starks, was consumed by grief, the law enforcement authorities were piecing together key evidence that would soon reveal the horrifying truth about the child's death. Kimora's messages indicated that she was frustrated with Kyrie's behavior, but there was no indication of the physical abuse that would soon follow. It was alleged that Kimora had allegedly thrown the boy against a wall and shaken him violently, causing his devastating injuries. It didn't take long for police to begin piecing together the timeline of events and the messages that Kimora had sent to Taylor. They learned that the attack on Kyrie took place sometime between 3:30 p.m. and midnight on June 13th, with authorities narrowing down the time frame based on surveillance footage, text messages, and other evidence.
We spoke with Macomb County Prosecutor Pete Lucido. He says they're waiting on an official autopsy for little Kyrie before deciding on those additional charges. Meantime, there is a GoFundMe page set up. You can find it at fox2detroit.com. Jessica Dupnack, Fox 2 News.
Kimora was charged with child abuse in the first degree after her initial arrest. However, as more details emerged, her charges were upgraded to homicide in the first degree when it became clear that Kyrie's death was no accident. Roseville Police Chief Ryan Monroe stated that Kimora was cooperating with investigators and appeared remorseful for her actions.
We're very regretful, remorseful for her actions, but obviously that doesn't take any of it back.
But the damage had been done. The brutal beating of a 1-year-old boy was beyond forgiveness. But what investigators found next would shock them. As the investigation continued, it was discovered that Kimora had a history of mistreating children. This wasn't the first time. The abuse had been ongoing for some time, and it had escalated. Her actions had left a young life shattered, and no amount of remorse could undo the pain and loss felt by Kyrie's mother, Taylor. Kimora's arrest marked the beginning of a long legal battle, and the emotional toll on Taylor was unimaginable. On social media, Taylor posted heart-wrenching messages expressing her deep grief and sense of betrayal. She had trusted Kimora with her son, and now, in the wake of this senseless tragedy, Taylor was forced to confront the reality that her biggest fear had come true. In one particularly heart-wrenching post, Taylor shared, "This heartfelt message shows the deep pain Taylor is going through, as she is not only mourning the loss of her child, but also grappling with the guilt of not being able to protect him from the person she had once considered a friend."
I'm so hurt that she did this to me. And I would have never done this to her and her baby. I would have never hurt her.
Taylor's emotional post was a call for justice for Kyrie. She promised that she would do everything in her power to ensure that the woman who had caused her son's death would be held accountable for her actions. But the shock didn't end there. Investigators uncovered further details that deepened the mystery surrounding Kyrie's tragic fate. It was revealed that Kimora had a history of mistreating children, including an alleged past altercation with another child under her care. She had been arrested in 2018 for assaulting another individual, which raised questions about her suitability as a babysitter. Taylor's nightmare was compounded by the realization that her child had suffered in silence, unable to escape the abuse that Kimora had inflicted. Kimora's defense attorneys initially tried to present her as remorseful and overwhelmed, claiming she had simply lost control while caring for a difficult child. However, the mounting evidence of Kyrie's repeated abuse and the horrific nature of his injuries made it clear this was not a tragic accident, but a deliberate act of violence. But the story Kimora told to explain what happened quickly began to unravel. At first, Kimora attempted to cover her actions by claiming that Kyrie had suffered an allergic reaction to soap. Later, under pressure, she admitted, "Maybe I hit him too hard." The evidence presented at trial painted a harrowing picture, and soon prosecutors would reveal the full extent of the brutality Kyrie endured. Prosecutors detailed how Kimora violently threw 1-year-old Kyrie against a wall, an attack that caused fatal head trauma. Medical experts testified that his injuries were consistent with severe physical abuse and could not have been explained by an accident. Witness testimony, phone records, and Kimora's own shifting accounts further undermined her defense. It was this overwhelming evidence that led the jury to a decisive verdict.
Yet another big story tonight. A Roseville babysitter now charged with murder in the death of a 23-month-old boy.
Let's get right to Jason Colthorpe. He's live in the newsroom with these new charges. Jason.
And charges, Kim, that were expected once the boy died from his injuries yesterday. Kimora Hodges now charged with felony murder in the death of a little boy who was about to turn 2 years old. Roseville police say the 21-year-old Hodges was babysitting the boy named Kyrie when she called his mother to say he wasn't acting normally. He was rushed to the hospital where doctors determined he had severe head trauma. Detectives say Hodges confessed to hurting the boy. Hodges was denied bond and will be back in court June 29th. Obviously, we'll be following this case every step of the way. Kim, Devin, back to you.
Jason, thank you.
In July 2025, a Macomb County, Michigan jury found Kimora Launme Hodge guilty of murder. She is scheduled to be sentenced on October 2nd, 2025, and faces up to life in prison. The guilty verdict brought a measure of justice for Kyrie, whose short life was marked by innocence and joy before it was tragically shortcut. In the months following Kyrie's death, Taylor and her family began a GoFundMe campaign to cover funeral expenses. The campaign, titled Justice for Kyrie, raised an outpouring of support from friends, family, and even strangers who were moved by the tragedy. As of the latest update, the fundraiser had raised over $77,000, far exceeding its original goal of $17,500. Despite the financial support, no amount of money could bring Kyrie back. His death left a hole in Taylor's heart that could never be filled. The loss of her son, combined with the betrayal by someone she had trusted, was an unbearable weight that she would carry with her for the rest of her life. In addition to the financial support, there have been numerous messages of solidarity and love pouring in from people across the country. Taylor has shared that the kindness from others has helped her cope with the unbearable pain she feels every day. As she continues her fight for justice, she knows she is not alone. The love of her family, the community, and the public who have rallied around her will continue to be a source of strength. As the case continues to unfold in the courts, Taylor remains determined to see justice served for her son. The road to healing will be long, but with the support of her community, she knows she must stay strong for the memory of Kyrie, the little boy who had so much promise, but whose life was stolen far too soon. As of now, Kimora Launme Hodge remains behind bars awaiting trial for the murder of Kyrie. Taylor's fight for justice continues, not just for herself, but for the memory of her son, whose life was tragically shortcut. This case is a stark reminder of the dangers that lurk when trust is misplaced, and the devastating consequences of abuse that often go unnoticed until it's too late. The legal proceedings against Kimora are ongoing, and Taylor's battle for justice is far from over. But despite the overwhelming grief, Taylor remains determined to ensure that Kyrie's death is not in vain, and that the truth about what happened to him is known. Taylor's heartbreak over the murder of her son has turned into a fierce resolve to make sure that no other child suffers the same fate. Her story has brought awareness to the issue of child abuse, highlighting the importance of trusting the people who care for our children and the consequences of that trust being violated. As we reflect on this case, let us remember Kyrie, a beautiful young boy with a bright future that was tragically shortcut. His death serves as a heartbreaking reminder of the importance of vigilance when it comes to the care of our children and the devastating consequences of misplaced trust. What do you think about it? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.